Hello, I'm Oliver Patrice Vader. Welcome to the walkthrough for my Shoe Factory library. And welcome in my living room here, a former shoe factory. So I've had the pleasure to yet again move into an acoustically very interesting spot, and shoe factories is a bit of a thing here on the island of Mallorca. Many years ago, this village was full of shoe factories and the whole island was into shoe production as well. There's still some intact shoe factories, and I went there equipped with microphone and recorded some of these really old machines, some of the ambient, some of the chatter, talked to some of these people. And the sound is very important to these people as well, because when it was really hot back in the day, they would have the factory doors open, and so the sounds of these machines would spill into the streets of the village. And I thought that was a really interesting concept. So, combined with those factory recordings and some of the brass recordings, sax recordings, and harpies of the library, my grand piano here, I created a Shoe Factory library. I then further tweaked these recordings over there in my studio, sending it through various effects, pedals, etc., and made a really lovely playable virtual instruments out of it. Let's take a look over there. All right, let me play my favorite patch of the library. Oh, this is just so lovely. So this one was actually made by the contact wizard Felipe, who is behind programming this whole thing, and he came up with this and I just fell in love with it. So what else is in the library? So we have the factory grand here. That's the piano that you've just seen over there in the shoe factory. Then we have factory textures with a bunch of presets here. Then we have the factory shorts, a number of presets, factory swells, with some presets here. I'll explain you the GUI just in a second. Then we have the machine, which are the hits, really lovely, kind of massive cinematic hits, machine loops, some driving, grimy kind of loops, raw percussion loops, really lovely, recorded by my good friend Juan Espiga. And then we have the brass trio swells and the Sax Swells soft, also recorded over there in my shoe factory, so to speak. So you've heard the factory echoes, and we have a bunch of effects here. And what I like in a user interface usually is when you tweak one knob or one slider, that it does something kind of magical instantly, or it does something very clear. And so that's what we focused on when building this thing. So distance, it's very useful if you write with dialogue, for example, or you need another instrument to take the spotlight right in the middle. It just pushes the sound a little bit out of the way. So it's kind of a sonic distance rather than kind of a physical distance. Like a physical distance is when a sound, you know, when you just hear the bass if you walk away from a festival. So it's not exactly that, but let me just play. So it gives that kind of space for something else. And I use this a lot in like strings, so it takes out a little bit around the 2K, 3K mark, and a couple of other spots on the EQ spectrum there. And it just feels like a useful tool to me. Grime here adds a little bit of dirt to the sound. And you can assign all of these parameters and effects to your mod wheel here. At the moment I have these two layers assigned, but let's just remove them for the moment. On some of the GUIs, or per GUI, you have different functions assigned to the mod wheel here, but you can easily change them by right-clicking here. So now we have just the grime there. For me, this is quite useful. I play a lot with my right hand, and with the left hand I like to sculpture the sound in real time. Then here we have the layers. So you've heard now the first layer. The second layer just adds a little bit more depth. The third layer here. Further kind of slightly brighter depth. And again, these are here assigned to CC1. And if I'm playing here, it's just so lovely. Attack and release, your usual thing, so the sound starts immediately, or it just kind of fades in slowly. And the same with the release, whether it stops immediately when you let your keys go, or whether it kind of rings out for a little while. Always command click here puts the parameter into the default state. Down here we have more traditional effects such as the reverb, but we've chosen the type of effect that we feel fits really well with the specific sound. So I think it's really handy to have them right there at your fingertips. Turn the reverb up a bit. You can change the time, pre-delay, or just have like no dry signal and just really make this sound something different. Let's see, for example, grime up, a bit of distance up. So now we only hear the reverb signal. And it turns into something slightly different. So we have distortion as well. With the sub menu again popping up down here where you can change the tone. Drive, LFO, this is really amazing. It's on most of the patches, and you can, of course, you can sync it here. So it syncs to your host's tempo. And by the way, if one of the patches or one of the presets is kind of has a rhythm, it will always sync to your host. So that's quite useful. And here, this one, actually we can see this better here. So we have circle LFO, square LFO, or if you select both, you get triangle LFO. So let's go into sync mode here, eighths. And you have different divisions here, 8th triplets, 16th or 16th triplets there. Or you can choose your own frequency if you don't want it tempo synced. Could be quite cool, for example, to assign this as well to your controller. Let's assign also the distortion here. Quite a useful tool there again to shape your sounds. Then the compressor, again, sometimes, for example, if you add a bit of distance, you need a little bit of volume, and I think it's better to compress the sound and bring it up rather than just add just normal volume here. You have makeup gain here, you have release and attack, your kind of most traditional effects in a compressor. Now this lock here, you've seen me, if I wiggle the mod wheel here and I've assigned the distortion, then it'll jump onto this menu, even though I have assigned this frequency knob to CC1 as well. So you cannot see it does its function, but you cannot see it. So this is just a visual lock. So now it locks this kind of menu view and you can see what you're doing there. You can't change this view now here, the sub menu view anymore. You can change the amount here, but it won't change. So you have to unlock it and then it goes back. It's just a bit of a help in case you want to work with assigning MIDI CC to the sub menu there. Let's have a look to the factory grand. So I'll just play a little bit. So you can hear it's got quite a lot of character to it. You hear some of the noises of the keys or of the mechanics. It's a very, very old piano and it's been restored many times. And on top of that, I've really treated it. So it's got, each hammer has a different amount of felt to kind of keep it equal. So we have similar functions up here, distance grime, add a little bit of dirt to the piano. Then we have two signals here. So my signal, which is a little bit brighter. So I've added some EQ, etc. to it, compression. And then the raw signal, it's just the C414s with literally no processing. A little warmer, a little woollier, and we've decided just as a default position to have both of them up. Then the key releases, you can turn them off. Pedal noise, turn it off as well. And then, you know, if we have a little bit more reverb here, no grime, no distortion, just let's say the raw signal, you can make this sound really, really kind of calm and without any mechanics. The function down here, same as before with the factory pads or the factory echoes, distortion, delay, compressor. Here we can, for example, turn the delay up a little bit, releases again, and we turn it into a slightly different kind of instrument. Just find it inspiring if you tweak these knobs and something else comes out of it. Let's see if another option here, for example. Very versatile options there. Let's move on to the factory textures here. I'll play you some presets so you just get an idea. So these are recorded at the factory shop, some ambiences. I made instruments out of it, then I put the sound of that newly built instrument through effects. I used this microcosm here quite a lot. Then I had a new instrument and then I sent it through the big sky and through the timeline, and then I layered it with the sax recording swells, etc. And so I created all these different textures. Again, here you can sculpt your sounds, etc., and make it something completely different. So I got inspired with the names of actual shoe factories of all these different machines. Some of the sounds are quite out there, like this one. So I mentioned it's all time synced, so let me set the tempo here to 90. Assembly station, for example, I want to assign this LFO here. Let me play a couple more here. Overheated cutting press. Injection molding. By the way, this is a thing we took a decision. So instead of resetting the parameters when you go to the next preset, we decided to leave whatever you tweaked. So you can kind of shop around per preset, but keeping your assigned effects and your tweaks. If you want to go back to the initial settings, just reload the factory textures or command click on here, or unassign these parameters that you've assigned. Let's check out the factory shorts. It's quite a cool sound there. Broken apparatus. Faded grand. And again, you can put the compressor up, change attack and release, climb up, a bit more reverb. Let's have more of the reverb signal, distortion, delay. Grand on acid. It's quite fun. Electric light here. It's quite fun, leathered. Digital Nexus is quite a nice one actually. So. And again, this is going to be tempo synced. So if I take the tempo down. Let me play Soft Spot for you. Then we have the factory swells. And the really cool feature here is the speed. Usually the speed, or by default, the speed is assigned to the pitch wheel, so it always springs back. I haven't got a pitch wheel assigned, so you can right click and remove what's there and assign it, for example, to your mod wheel. And now it allows you to either lengthen or shorten the swell, even mid-performance, and I think that's incredibly useful. Starting slow. And then speeding it up. Obviously, if you go all the way up or all the way down, it stretches it so much, it becomes a little bit of an artificial thing, but even that in itself could be quite nice. So let's hear, for example, a really fast swell here, not going into the artificial region. Let's try a couple of other swells here. Heavenly swell. Stutter swell here. Big Atmos swell. Again, here we can have a little bit of LFO, have it synced, let's say triangle, here 8s, maybe mixed with 16th triplet. Really cool stuff there. Interference swell, I want to just bring this back again to its normal state, so command click. Clean swell. Let's see the factory swell here. You can really hear where it comes from. It's from the brass recording, really close, kind of the airy sounds that you can hear from the breath. Interference swell. I actually used this one on a project all over at the moment. Hear the saxophone popping out here and there, and it's an incredibly dramatic kind of sound. Then let's have a look at the machine, which includes some really lovely hits. Wow, this is nice and rich down there. And again, you have the same controls here, make it more distorted, push it a little bit further out of the way, delay, etc. Then what we have here, it's the tuning, quite important for these low hits specifically. You want to make sure they're in the same key as your track. Then we have some machine loops here. Synced to your host, of course. And you can really hear that this is a machine that kind of puts the holes in there, or the buttons for the shoes. And yeah, I put them through effects, etc. But in its essence, you can still hear it's this kind of factory machine. Then we have some raw percussion loops there as well. Actually, that's a lie. Those two first loops are also machine loops, but they're untreated. So they're more or less just kind of the raw machine sounds. Here we go, percussion loops. Lovely performance there by Juan Espiga, as mentioned. This kind of shakery stuff, hi-hat stuff. That's super useful to drive along a cue and to just add a little bit of tempo. We've got the brass trio swells here, the raw ones, very delicate stuff. Your normal or traditional functions here in effects: compressor, LFO, distortion, reverb, attack and release. We've got machinery here. By default, it's assigned to the MIDI CC here, mod wheel. Gets quite epic. We can also only listen to the machinery there, then becomes something completely different. Last but not least, the sax swells here, also quite a delicate sound. Put, for example, more reverb, have less of the dry sounds, make this much longer, a bit of machinery here, compressor, and then just a subtle pulse. you have very quickly a very unique sound. So that was it from my side. I really hope you get to enjoy the Shoe Factory library. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and we'll get back to you as usual. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Take care and see you next time. Bye bye.